Hello, lovely people. You know that saying, it's a plane, it's a bird, it's Superman. I feel kind of the same with this one. It's a woofer, it's a subwoofer, it's Helix i5. Before we start this video, I would like to say a huge thank you to Julian for sending me these for a review, or whatever I do with these. A few weeks ago on Facebook, they started popping up like mushrooms all over the place in Asia, in wherever. Everybody's posting these, and I was like, why? What's so special about these? So I dug a little bit deeper. I went onto Helix webpage, I dug into the specs, and I looked at these, and I was like, okay, this is something interesting. So for those that don't know, at the moment I'm running One Audio 8-inch mid-bass drivers in the kicks, and the problem with my kicks is that they don't have a lot of space. I need something very shallow, and these just maybe might outperform the One Audio mid-bass drivers in the mid-bass department. Now the only way to describe this thing, whatever it is, Helix in some places calls it a fusion woofer, sometimes a hybrid, and basically this is a hybrid between a mid-bass and a subwoofer because it offers a lot of excursion while being super flat. So this is one of the drivers from a Helix Compose series. So for those that don't know, I think last year or the year before, Helix released the Compose series that composes of 3 lines, which is, well, maybe you can say it's 4 lines, i3, i5, and i7, and a line, which is kind of a basic one. So i7 is kind of top of the range line. They call it high-end because i7 line has a lot of technology trickled down from the Brack series. Then you have i5, which is mainly this woofer and a tweeter, and then a 3 line, which is kind of a more affordable version while still offering all the goodies and stuff. And then finally you have some basic stuff here. So the whole idea behind the Compose line is that you have a variety of different drivers, so mainly tweeters, 4-inch, 5.25, 6.5, and 8-inch drivers. And then you have all these drivers in the same kind of basket with different technologies and everything. However, they have what Helix calls a flex mount. So basically you take a driver and you can put it into any mounting that you need for your specific application. For example, this i5 driver, the 8-inch, it has a variety of different mountings for different cars. It was mainly designed to be used in like BMW and Mercedes platforms, where you have the woofer under the seat in BMWs, which I believe is this one, and then you have in Mercedes, you have on the firewall. And basically you take this woofer, you put it in the mounting that you want, and you mount it in the factory location with basically no hassle. At the same time, they're offering these flex connectors, which are again designed specifically for a specific car. Now, one interesting thing that I find very cool is that all of these mounts, they're not mass produced with injection molding, but they 3D print them in Germany. And recently they posted a picture of their printer farm, which looks like from a sci-fi movie. Very cool. And you can find the plans for these 3D prints in some of the pages where they publish all the plans. I'm not sure which ones exactly, but basically you can download the plans and you can 3D print a mount yourself, because we will have a look how these woofers look, the actual mounting thing. So in this video, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna unbox them just to show you what it is. I have with the grills as well, because Julian sent me a grills as well. And in this video, we're gonna do some simple stuff. So we're gonna take impedance sweep. We're gonna have a look how it looks like. We're gonna take the frequency response from far field outside of the car, like not in the car. Then we're going to take distortion measurements and we're going to directly compare these to One Audio because I have them. But basically the woofer looks like this. It is shallower than the One Audio. The magnet, I think it looks very similar. It does have this, I think this magnet is a bit smaller. So these can handle 200 watts RMS. Now, one cool thing is that this specific version I'm gonna show you like that. This is a single 2 ohm version. There's another version of the same driver that has a pair of 2 ohm coils. Now, why the lower impedance? Since they kind of made for factory integration, they are designed to use with the DSP amplifiers. And as we know, the DSP amplifiers, they do have lower power output. However, the power output goes higher if you decrease the load. So instead of using a 4 ohm woofer, you can use a 3 or a 2 ohm. So this single 2 ohm woofer, it does handle, as I mentioned, 200 watts. So this single 2 ohm would be perfect for a normal typical amplifier that can output 150 watts into 4 ohms and is going to be close to 200 watts into 2 ohms. Now, if you have a 2 coil version with 2 ohm coils, then you could potentially hook it up to a smaller DSP amplifier. Like if we're taking, for example, I don't know, V8, V12, or some of the match amplifiers that can do like, 75 watts into 4 ohms or something. Then you have down to 2 ohms, probably 100, 120 watts, and 2 coils, that's going to be perfect for that. So it needs a lot of power just because it has a lot of excursion. So this woofer, if we're going to have a look at the manual, and this part really surprised me. There we go here. So 200 watts RMS. The sensitivity is still high. So for a 2 ohm version, it's 92 dB, but the interesting thing is the X-Max, 7.8 millimeters. So close to 8 millimeters of X-Max on a driver that is so shallow. And this is why it's kind of a hybrid between a mid-bass and a subwoofer, because with 2 of these, you're gonna have so much displacement that for a small system, a subwoofer will not be necessary. And that's why I want to check it out, because I want to get rid of my front subwoofer or just have a little bit more output at that like maybe 50 to 70 hertz range. So this is, I think, is going to be very cool. Another thing, QTS 0.7, so it's perfect for IB applications. My kicks are in infinite baffle, so these will work indoors as well. However, with doors, you have to be a bit more careful, because with a heavier woofer offering a lot of excursion, your doors might fall to pieces. So be careful with the doors, because you're not meant to put subwoofers in the doors. So let's have a look. We have plastic composite, composite, whatever, but it is plasticky, so it's fine. Waterproof, not paper, great. Rubber surround, very soft surround. However, the spider is a bit more stiff, and you can see the spider is just here. It's not there where you usually find it. It's just here. If you look hard enough, you might see the coil. No, you won't be able to see the coil. The coil is right there, but it's very difficult to see it. Oh, there we go. Shiny copper. That's your coil. It does have some vents in the voice coil itself. And this is, again, saying like with One Audio, if you would put your finger, you can touch the dust cap. And this mounting. So you can see this is not your typical shape. And this is what basically plugs into one of the mountings that you buy. So I have these basic grills. Let me take one of them out. There we go. So that's the grill with this one. So you can use it with the grill or without. If you want, I'm just going to show you without. So this basically, you have these cutouts that go like this. And you plug it in and in. And then you have a bigger flange for mounting, because the main mountings are going to be here on the sides. So this is kind of typical normal 8-inch driver without the metal mesh. But if I'm going to remove this, put the mesh on top, there we go. That's with the mesh. So it just snaps into place and you have like a normal typical 8-inch driver that you can mount literally anywhere. So yeah, the main thing is super shallow. It offers a lot of excursion, a lot of power handling, and this is going to be your hybrid between a mid-bass and a subwoofer, especially when you have 2 of them. Now these, being such a high Q driver, I doubt that they will work in a sealed enclosure. They would be super peaky and you would lose all the bottom end basically. But yeah, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break them in, because they're brand new, they haven't been used at all, and then we're going to take all the typical stuff, frequency response, impedance, distortion, and in the next video, I will put them in the car because I need to check my 3D print mountings if they're going to work. If not, I will need to print another ones because I'm not sure if they're going to fit normally or I'll have to mount them inverted as well. But I think these will fit normally and not inverted. We'll see. So let's jump into the laptop and let's see what this thing can do. And as always, we're going to start with the impedance graph. So this is one of the drivers is broken in, so it's the red one, and the green one is not broken in because I wanted to compare them with the distortion as well, just to compare how stuff changes when you break in the driver. So if I have a look at a broken driver like that, the FS is 52 in the manual is a bit lower, but probably it needs a bit more time to broke in, so that's kind of fine. Then we have this massive bump at about 740. Now for a normal driver, for a mid-bass, that might be a problem. However, as I mentioned, there's a combination between a subwoofer and a mid-bass, so it's not going to play above like 250 or so. So all of this, whatever that happens, it doesn't matter at all. Now we can see from here that it is a 2 ohm driver, 2.5 ohms, something like that, not broken in slightly. The other one is slightly lower. It could be due to my measurements, but it is a 2 ohm driver. And now the question is how this compares with One Audio, because I have it as well. So this is the One Audio, higher FS, obviously, because it is a much higher sensitivity. I double checked the sensitivity and One Audio is rated at 93 dB at 1 watt. And this one is 86 dB at 1 watt and 92 at 2.83 volts. So it is a huge difference in sensitivity. So yeah, FS is different. And from this, the main thing that we can see is the inductance. So the One Audio has much lower inductance because this rise is much lower. I couldn't find inductance mentioned in Helix manual, but it is higher. It's not a subwoofer high, but is compared relatively higher. So we can expect that it's not going to play as high as the One Audio, because from the last video we saw that One Audio plays almost all the way up. But yeah, this one is not an issue because it's not going to be playing that. So now let's have a look at the frequency response. This is the near field frequency response, so we're literally right next to the dust cap just to see what it does. And we can see that it is nice in the lower frequencies where it's supposed to play. It has a little bump at about 60. This is, I would imagine, a design feature because you would want that bump, which is very nice. And it doesn't play anything above like 800. And again, this is perfectly fine because it is a subwoofer mid-bass and not a full range driver. Yes, One Audio plays all the way up, but these two drivers are very, very different. So we see this bump at 720, 730, which corresponds with this bump in the impedance graph. So this is cone breakup, I would imagine. And here we have stuff happening, but again, this is absolutely doesn't matter. Now, break-in, not break-in, there's not really a difference. Usually see a bigger difference in the lower end, but in this case, I don't see it. Probably I didn't break it in as much as I should, but yeah. Now let's have a look at far field response. So this is a response from 1 meter away, and I did apply some smoothing because if I would decrease the gating to have this smoother, then I would lose the bottom end. So just for you to show, it's not perfect and it's in a baffle, which is kind of an open baffle. But yeah, you can see maybe up to 800-900 and then it drops off. Now, One Audio, which was this one, One Audio was playing all the way up to 5K and even higher than that. However, we can see from this that if I'm going to apply the same crossover on the Helix 6060, Helix plays a little bit lower, and it is kind of expected. It has a lower FS, slightly more X-Max, and it is designed to play these lower frequencies. So again, this is just in a baffle, but I would expect we're going to have a similar result in a car where the Helix will play lower as it was designed to play lower. And finally, let's have a look at the distortion. So this is the distortion, and these two graphs are when the driver is broken in versus when it's not broken in. So we see exactly the same situation as we had with One Audio, where the driver that is not broken in has a higher distortion compared to broken. So when you break it in, it's like this. And we can see that at the lower end, it reaches 2% only like below 55 hertz or so, but it doesn't go out of the control at all. And for frequencies below 50 hertz, 2%, it's not audible, so it's not an issue. But the most important part is the mid bass, which is like between 60 and 200, where this driver will be playing. And we can see that distortion is very, very low, below 0.5%, 0.3%, which is amazing to see. Then we have a rising distortion here, exactly at 700, 800 hertz, where we have that cone breakup. But this driver, again, is not going to play above 250, so this can be ignored altogether. Now, in regards to the crossover, I tried a few different crossovers. This is with a 50 hertz crossover, so we can see it removes this part below 60 or so. This peak, I'm not sure why it is there. This is probably just gonna be noise. And even a higher 60 hertz crossover, I'm gonna remove this one. 60 hertz removes this part. So if we're going to have a look at 60, we see that with a 60 hertz 24 dB crossover, everything down to 50. Well, this peak, I'm not sure why is it there, but I do have the same on one audio, so I would imagine this is my room or baffle thing. If we ignore this one, down to 35 is 0.5% or lower. Now, the most important thing, how does it compare with one audio? This is one audio. So one audio is cleaner, even at lower frequencies, and this is what I mean. This 50 hertz bump, we have the same on both of these drivers, because probably is the baffle or something, because they were tested at exactly the same conditions. So this is not the driver, but this is my equipment. But in summary, we have a crossover point at about 100 hertz or so. So below 100 hertz, one audio is slightly cleaner. Above 100 hertz, the Helix is slightly cleaner. But again, we're talking about difference between 0.2, 0.3 and 0.5%. This is literally nitpicking and is going to be inaudible. The biggest difference between these two drivers in this range, where I'm going to plan to use it, like between 45 and 250 or whatever, it's going to be output because of the excursion and the cone area. Yeah, these are very, very different drivers, one audio and Helix, but it's very nice to see that the Helix, even with a heavier cone, even with higher inductance, it is still super, super clean. For a mid-bass driver to play 0.5% and lower, it's extremely, extremely good. So I'm very happy with the performance of this driver. So my final thoughts on this driver. As expected from Helix, you cannot expect anything bad from Helix. It's super, super good driver. I think it's going to be an extremely good mid-bass driver. Obviously, I need to test it in real world, put it in my car and listen to it. But objectively looking at the data, this is an amazing driver, and look how thin it is. It's super thin. It's going to fit literally anywhere. 200 watts, single 2 ohm. Mid-bass goodness. Now, yes, my car is not a BMW, my car is not a Merc. However, with some custom rings that you can 3D print, you can install anything and anywhere. If you already have these drivers, please put in the comments what do you think about them. How are you happy with the performance? And if you're planning to buy them, yeah, if you can fit 8 inches, go for it. They retail for, I think, 299 euros. So again, it will depend in which country of the world you are, because in the US, probably is going to be a bit more expensive, but yeah, 300 euros for 8-inch. Yeah, they're very, very nice. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one.